All right, so where have we got to? What were we doing this morning? Anyone sum it up? Do you know what I've found is that people are inordinately bad at figuring out what they just did. The number of times that I've done this, okay, who wants to sum up what we did this morning? And it's just hopeless, the replies I get. Okay, who feels brave enough to try and sum up what we did this morning and what it was about? How far we got so far?
I just liked your, the graphic imagery of your grounding. If I was saying what that is, we're just connecting between heaven and earth, and now we're here, and we're ourselves. That's what I can't remember.
All right, okay. So, what did we identify? So what was the first question I asked everybody? I think I might go home at this stage. All right, okay. I'll put you out of your misery. I'll remind you. So I made the point. I started by asking you, how do we feel? And then I asked you, what is it that determines how you feel? And you gave me all these answers, remember? Right. Which basically are all ideas and all of our mental experiences. And I said, well, where are they coming from? And you say things like childhood, peer pressure, habits, my personality. Where's it all come from? Where's that come from? Anyway, we got to the point, hopefully, of recognizing that how we feel is a byproduct of how well organized we are. And that when we are in a disturbed, poorly organized, incoherent state, we don't feel happy, even when there doesn't really appear to be much cause for alarm. We feel just generally not settled. And even though we've got everything we could possibly want, we're still not satisfied. And on the other side, if we are well organized and our energy structures and our mind and our heart are coherent, even in the face of extraordinary challenge, we can meet it with acceptance, peace, even love. The point being that it's not what happens to you that makes you happy or not, but how you choose to react to it. And how you react to it is determined by how well organized you are. So there are two issues. There's the issue of, I need to learn to react to things in a more informed way, or shall we say, respond to things in a more informed way. But recognizing that need itself doesn't necessarily get us to the point where we are able to change our behavior. It doesn't take long, and most of us have an innate capacity as human beings to know what's right and what's wrong, fundamentally. You know, we can argue the cuss over attitudes to little minutiae of social habits, but generally we know that harming ourselves and others is not a good thing. Doing things that are detrimental to ourselves and others is not for our well-being. And that being considerate and loving to ourselves and others is entirely for our well-being, and yet we don't find it very easy to come down on the positive side and completely negate, turn away from and let go the negative side. We're carrying information within us that continues to incline us towards dysfunctional behavior, attitudes, whatever, and sickness, in spite of knowing better. This is the point. So the information is not enough. Being informed is not enough. That is so clear. You ask somebody, it would really be for your benefit if you were to stop doing that. Like, goodness me, I mean, there's 1,001 things that we're aware that it's to our benefit if we were to stop doing them. And yet we don't. And it's all very well to sort of say, well, you know, it's hard because, you know, nobody else wants to change, etc. But when it gets to the point where you are really feeling unhappy because what you know you ought to be doing, you're not able to. Being the person you'd like to be, you can't be. That's really unhappy. You know, that's worse than being ignorant. So, being informed is not the solution, is it? How do we actually handle the information about this is how to conduct my life? Well, listen, I'm sure you've all done all sorts of inquiries into all kinds of aspects of life, searching for answers that satisfy, that lead to your own happiness and the happiness of those around you. But we haven't yet reached a point where we have access to it, still battling and fighting with ourselves. So, information itself does not bring about the change within us. It may be a push, it may be a prompt, but if we are innately restless, dissatisfied, poorly organized, impatient, intolerant, being told that we're intolerant and recognizing that we're intolerant, or if we're innately greedy, being told that we're greedy and recognizing we're greedy doesn't really serve us, does it? It's like, oh my goodness. And even making the determination, I really shouldn't be so greedy, I really shouldn't be so intolerant, I really shouldn't be so impatient, I really shouldn't be so judgmental, I shouldn't be so jealous, I shouldn't have so much pride. And we recognize all these things that need to change in us, but we struggle to change them. We don't struggle to recognize that they ought to be changed, but we really struggle to change them. So, why is it so hard? The point being, as I explained this morning, these patterns of negativity that have sort of, shall we say, tend to crowd out our best intentions are a byproduct of us becoming more and more disorganized energetically, less coherent as a human being. Coherence is, you know, the creative order of the universe. When things come into coherence, the life principle expresses itself in extraordinarily beautiful and creative and imaginative ways. When there is incoherence, that creative principle starts to break apart. There is an intelligence within the human being as an organism that is so deep and so profound that it will keep something that is so complex, unfathomably complex, that for all our mastery of our mind and understanding of the universe, we haven't come close to conceiving how we would ever create such an extraordinary thing as a human organism. And yet we haven't got a clue how it does what it does. We sort of do. We can sort of break it down into biology, physiology, chemistry, physics. Go, well, it's kind of that kind of organism and it works like this. But however does it get to do these extraordinary, where does it come from? There is that much innate intelligence within us that is just way beyond our understanding. That if you just leave it, it will evolve into what it should be. Those trees outside, left alone, responding perfectly to their environment, evolve into the pure expression of their potential. Which is what we have innately the capacity to do. But we also have something else within us, which is the capacity for being aware of ourselves, being self-conscious, creating an idea of what we think we are, this idea of me, which in a way is the pinnacle of human consciousness, and yet our very undoing. Because it is all of that extraordinary proliferations of ideas about how things might be that stands between you and the direct experience of what you are living. And it is that bandwidth of ideas of me and the world that is the interference that creates the incoherence, that is the misorganizing principle. I was ignored as a child by my mother and left in the garden in the rain, while she sat having coffee mornings with her friends. Okay? Right. Now you're 40 years old, and you are not sitting in the garden, left there by your mother while she drinks coffee with her friends, and nor is it raining. How much charge have we put upon our system, holding on to the idea that it mattered? For example, that sits between you and what you are experiencing. And it filters it, and it distorts it, and it creates incoherence. So, look, we've all got extraordinarily elaborate ideas of who we think we are, and how we ended up that, and why we should be like that. And we've got endless justifications for our position. And most of the time, where's our energy invested? In trying to justify our position. When the answer to the problem is always, whatever. It is what it is. So your mum left you in the garden when you were 5 years old and it rained. Well, she forgot. And? So, you know, this is the problem. There's so much incoherence surrounding this idea of what we think we are, that incoherence arises in everything we experience. It's right there, filtering. There's the seeing, and here's the seeing, and between it there's me. Who's seeing it? The seer. And it's that misinformation that has this disorganizing effect upon us. You know, when someone goes into a coma, they do not age, they do not deteriorate. In fact, there was even, not recently, maybe a couple of years ago, I heard on the radio, a lady who was blind, had an accident, went into a coma, in the coma for 6 months, came out of her coma, and she could see. And it was all over the news. It's a miracle, it's a miracle. That the damage at the base of the eye that had caused the blindness could repair itself. All that aversion energy, all that energy that causes the software that allows you to see this delicate piece of machinery that performs this extraordinary, unfathomable function of translating visual information to the seeing of it, was broken down somewhere. She wasn't born blind, she became blind. And she healed herself while she was out of the way. Sometimes that's what it takes in order to heal. You need to just get out of the way long enough so that the intelligence that is flowing through you or desperately trying to can do what it's meant to do. So when we look at how we might allow ourselves to become more organized, more coherent as a being, human being, you could look at it in terms of, well, I change my diet, I sleep regularly, I do some qigong, some yoga, some meditation, I do some service for others so that I gladden my heart, I stop fighting with da-da-da. Yes, and these are all active things that can help. But that is active interference. And it's no doubt better than negative interference. But the highest healing principle of all is that you do nothing, and at that point you get everything. Because the universe flows through you perfectly at the moment that you get out of the way, and that flow of life through you is impinged upon the moment you get in the way. So we need to extract that interference from the process so that the field of potentiality, which is this human life, can be expressed. So, allowing ourselves to reorganize to a higher state of coherence may involve doing far less than you think. So, we looked at it. How do we come into a more organized state? Of course, what I've just explained to you effectively is this path out of a state of confusion to a point of awakening. But the key is to know that that innate state, that pure state of intelligence, is already there waiting. It's innate within you. It's waiting for the opportunity, the invitation, permission to be expressed. It's not waiting for you to understand enough about how you need to do this, do that, da 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 da. It's not. There is a very good reason that we have to sleep. 6 to 8 hours a night, we are out of the way. And in those 6 to 8 hours, all the disturbance, interference, etc. that we put in the way during our waking hours gets a chance to be backed out of the system and reorganized, hopefully, so that we can get up in the morning and start creating more and more incoherence again. If you stop sleeping, you start to die. Within 4 or 5 days, your system starts to pack up. Your body cannot cope with what this does to it from the moment it wakes up to the moment it goes to bed, without that period of you not doing it. But if you were to choose, learn somehow to get out of the way consciously, not unconsciously, 2 things start to happen. That incoherence that you're adding to the equation starts to recede, and that capacity to heal and reorganize starts to come online. But also you start to experience properly what's going on around you. You wake up, you see it. It's just that. That's what we mean when we talk about the suchness of things. We mean it is what it is. Whether you understand it or not, it doesn't matter a jot. The universe is not waiting for you to understand it. You are here, blessed with the opportunity to witness it. To know that you are a part of it. To recognize that it's to be alive that is the miracle. And the moment you're out of the way, or the moment you start to get out of the way, you turn up. So 2 things start to happen. All the misinformation from the confused turning up starts to reorganize. And that experience of just being there with it starts to come online. That experience is satisfied, is okay, isn't in a state of conflict. It is what it is, and it is okay. The only thing that isn't okay is my idea of myself and all the ideas of how I think it ought to be. Now, it may take a very long time to come to very profound understanding that there isn't actually chaos in the universe. There is an extraordinary order. Now, okay, maybe it will take a while before you see that categorically to be the truth. But at least start to investigate this enormous capacity for healing, for awakening, that is waiting to be accessed by you. Not when you turn yourself into something extraordinary, but when you drop all your ideas of yourself and just allow yourself simply to be what you are. It's already a miracle, isn't it? I mean, really? What is this? You know, it's not that you need to understand something, it's that you just have to turn up and spot it and go, whoa. The Buddha would describe the awakened state, the enlightened state, as in the seeing there is only the seen. In the heard, there's only the heard. It isn't extraordinary, but there's nothing in the way. That's what we mean by the suchness of things. That state of awakening is the moment you spot that innate state of awareness, that basic state of awareness within you, that enters completely into its experience, needing to take nothing or add nothing. Take nothing away, add nothing. In our meditation, I said, leave everything as it is. As you learn to leave everything as it is, you watch it perfect itself in the moment, in its arising. All right, so it's not suddenly going to be the case that we're going to go from a very disturbed pool of water to a crystal clear mirror-like pool. It's not going to be the case that suddenly all the agitation within us has gone, that we become this mirror that perfectly reflects everything. Although that mirror is every second within you, functioning behind the distortion, your ability to access that and recognize that is something that will come upon you gradually. As you learn to settle and leave yourself undisturbed more and more. As you develop your capacity to accept how things are, the peace you make with things will deepen, and out of that deepening acceptance and peace, more stillness will come. Your capacity to reflect will become greater and greater. Your capacity to accept and the peace that you find with things will become greater, and gradually you'll find the disturbances and the distortions will fade until sometime, just for a moment, you're not in the way. It's just sitting here in this room, and the sound of the birds outside and the warmth of the sun and the stillness. And even the hum, and that's it. That's all there ever is. And it's always enough, and that moment is every bit as perfect as any other moment. When you start to turn up to it. And I can see which ones of you are still lost in your head, going, and which ones of you are going, yeah, allowing your mind to stop for long enough to let the heart enter into its experience. That is the practice. All of our Qigong work, our body work, opening up our energy structures, yes, we do it to create more coherence in our system. But that moment of waking up is the most simple state, the most uncontrived state of consciousness of which we are capable. It is not the result of screwing yourself up into sexual or spiritual ecstasy or the other. It is a moment that's innate. right there. When you take the pressure off, don't ask of it anything, don't expect to take anything out of it, just allow yourself to enter into it. So, let's have a look, let's go further with our journey of trying to reorganize that structure of energy that filters our experience, until maybe we get to a point of being able to glimpse through it completely.